Good evening. The stories this Friday, March the 3rd. And that good news for Nambawan Super members, 9% interest on their savings. We also look at that running story on the merger issue between Telecom and two other state telco companies. And is parole a right or a privilege or a violation of human rights? If refused, we'll find out. Members of the Nambawan Super Fund can expect increases in their balance over the weekend, 9%. This also applies to the balance on savings accounts of retired members as well. It comes as a result of the 404 million kina profit in 2016 announced by the fund yesterday. Fund Chairman Anthony Samre attributed this to the sound investments abroad. It's a 44% increase from the 2015 operations.
This is the second largest interest announced in recent times, apart from the 11% paid out a few years back. Employers of members who attended the announcing were very excited with the announcement, seeing their employees who are members of the fund will get higher benefits from last year's profit of 404 million kina. This is a 44% increase in profit from 2015's 280 million kina. According to Chairman Anthony Smare, the Super Fund has paid its members 1.4 billion kina over the past 4 years. And with its total finances and assets worth almost 6 billion kina, he says it will become harder to make a big profit in the future. But despite this, the company was able to make the profit it did. The chairman said even with the tough economic situation the country is currently going through, the Super Fund was able to generate such a profit through prudent management of carefully invested funds in key areas that are able to generate long-term financial income. A large number of public servants are set to benefit from this handsome profit.
So I know a lot of my members have been, struggling with the tough times. You can see, I think you guys saw it, everybody's screaming and cheering when we announced it. It's a great result, 404 million kina. Like even last year we made 280 million kina, which is a good result. 44% increase in profit to this year. We have nearly 60,000 teachers. And, they're everywhere, all over the country, all the most remotest places where there's schools, their members are there. So the teachers, I think when you look at the makeup, the 1.4 billion kina that we've provided over the last 4 years, a chunk of that has gone to teachers. Probably 600 million, maybe 700 million kina of that has been credited to teachers' accounts in the last 4 years. So they've been big beneficiaries. And I'm glad, after all the sacrifice they make for our country, bringing through the next generation, it's good that, Nambawan is looking after them.
Mr. Smare explained that 25% of the Super Fund's investments are overseas, in countries such as Australia and the United States. He told NBC a large part of last year's profit came from these investments. Mr. Smare pointed out that overseas investments act as a safeguard to balance the company's profits when the country's economy is down.
We have 25% of our funds are offshore, and they're offshore in equities all over, in Australia, in Singapore, in America. So we have these investments all over the world. So we have 25% offshore and 75% here. So our 25% offshore has actually grown. That's one of the big contributors to our profit, has been how our offshore investments are doing. So even if the economy goes really bad here, if the international economy is good, we'll still generate in return. So the way we look at it, if I make an analogy, is you got the canoe that's generating returns, and the canoe is Papua New Guinea. So all the investments in that canoe. But sometimes you need some balance, and that's why you have an outrigger. So 25% of investment sits in this outrigger, which is the international investments. So anytime we have some problems with the funds that we have in country with how the economy is going, we've got these other outriggers taking the weight because the international economy is doing well, it's lifting us.
Apart from this welcome announcement, Nambawan Super is also taking legal action against the state for non-payment of the government's component of a member's contribution. Almost 3,000 retired members are owed 113 million kina by the state. Besides the court case, the Super Fund is also having talks with relevant state authorities to find an amicable solution to this matter. Nambawan Super mainly invests in real estate, but also has shares in major industries such as Paradise Foods and Beverages, Stop and Shop group of companies and other commercial entities. It also has shares in many of the commercial banks in the country.
We have all of that in the bank. 404 million kina is actually sitting in the accounts ready to go out to our members. So that's one of the big things. The other thing is to focus on really strong companies that have a really strong market position in our country. You know, Paradise Foods, you know, it bottles Pepsi, it has all the Paradise crackers, all those, you know, the Arnott's biscuits, all those things, you know, the Gold Nuggets. We own that 85%. You know, we have 20% of Stop and Shop, you know, the chain that's around with Hardware House, all of that around the country. We own all the banks, you know, from Kina Bank 15%. I think we've got nearly 20% of BSP. We're at Westpac. We own all the banks. We own, you know, when you look at all the big properties. So most of the government buildings that government occupy, they're owned by Nambawan Super. So a lot of those rents coming from government, it's coming to Nambawan Super and goes back to the public servants, which is good. So the public servants that occupy the building, the rent for it comes back to the public servants.
Last week, Nest Fund also announced its membership interest, which was 7.5%.
Jaheb Akir with that report. This is PNG Tonight, the current affairs of NBC television. After the break, the merger issue between unions and the state telco companies. And later in the show, is it a right or a privilege or a violation of human rights if it is denied the parole system?